The Hall Pass. Paradox. Here's the thing about watching a narcissist pack a bag. They always think they're the main character in a trag romance, agonizing over a choice they've already made. My husband, Wesley, was standing there folding his denim shirts with this look of tortured nobility, lecturing me about finding his truth, completely unaware that the pen he was holding, the expensive Mont Blanc he'd bought with our joint account, had just signed his own financial death warrant. He thought he was taking a sabbatical from our marriage to sleep with his ex-wife. I knew he was walking into a buzzsaw. He smiled at me, that pitying, arrogant smile, thinking he'd won. I just sipped my coffee and waited for the blade to drop. If you're watching this video, tell me where you're from or what time it is for you. It started on a Tuesday, which I feel is important to mention because nobody expects their life to implode on a Tuesday. Tuesdays are for trash pickup and leftover stir-fry, not life-altering betrayals delivered over Greek yogurt. I was sitting at the breakfast nook nursing my second cup of coffee. It was 7:15 a.m. I had a 12-hour shift at the ER starting at 8, so my brain was already half-calibrating to trauma triage mode. Wesley was standing by the espresso machine, the one he insisted we needed but never cleaned, fiddling with the frother. "Audrey," he said. He didn't turn around, he just kept staring at the chrome finish of the machine. "I'm going to stay at Lauren's for a month." He said it with the same casual inflection one might use to announce they were switching to oat milk. I stopped chewing. The spoon in my hand hovered halfway between the bowl and my mouth. A drop of vanilla yogurt fell, hitting the ceramic rim with a wet, heavy plip. "Excuse me?" I said. My voice was level. That's the ER training. When someone tells you they've severed an artery, you don't scream, you apply pressure. Wesley finally turned around. He looked refreshed, excited almost. "I'm going to stay with Lauren, just for a month. Look, I want to be completely transparent with you because I respect you too much to sneak around." "You respect me," I repeated. I set the spoon down. It clattered louder than I intended. "Yes," he said, nodding vigorously like I was finally getting the lesson. Most guys, they'd lie. They'd say it was a business trip. They'd invent late meetings. But I'm not doing that. I'm telling you. I need space to process my past so I can be present for our future. Lauren and I, we have unresolved closure. "Closure," I said. "You want to live with your ex-wife for 30 days to get closure?" "It's a sabbatical, Audrey. A marriage sabbatical." From the living room doorway, I heard a snicker. I didn't have to look to know it was McKenna. Wesley's 19-year-old daughter, my stepdaughter, was leaning against the door frame, her phone raised. The little red light was on. She was filming. She was chewing gum, open-mouthed, a slow, rhythmic smack pop, smack pop. "He's just being real with you, Audrey," McKenna said, checking her angle on the screen. "God, don't be so toxic. He's communicating." "This is communicating?" I asked, looking back at Wesley. "It's radical honesty," Wesley said, puffed up now that he had an audience. He walked over to the table smelling like that sandalwood cologne he only wore when he had a big client pitch. "I'm not leaving you. I'm just taking a pause to explore. If I don't do this, I'll always wonder, and that resentment would poison us. So really, I'm doing this for us." I looked at him. I really looked at him. I saw the gray creeping into his beard that he dyed every 3 weeks. I saw the way his gut pushed against the buttons of his shirt. I saw a man who contributed maybe 30% to our household income, but consumed 100% of the oxygen. And I felt nothing. No, that's not true. I felt a cold, hard click in the center of my chest. It's the same feeling I get when I look at a monitor and see a flat line. The panic is gone. The hope is gone. There is only procedure. "Okay," I said. Wesley blinked. The wind went out of his sails instantly. He had been winding up for a fight. He wanted tears. He wanted me to beg. He wanted to be the prize 2 women fought over. "Okay?" he asked. "Okay," I said, picking up my mug. "If you need to go, you go." McKenna lowered her phone slightly, disappointed. That's it? You're not even going to cry? Why would I cry? I stood up, taking my bowl to the sink. Your father is an adult. If he needs a sabbatical at his ex-wife's house, who am I to stop him? I turned on the faucet, rinsing the yogurt away. I just need to make a phone call before you leave. Who are you calling? Wesley asked, a flicker of suspicion finally crossing his face. Just scheduling, I said. If you're moving out for a month, we need to handle the logistics. I walked past him, past McKenna's phone lens and into the bedroom. I closed the door, leaned against it, and took a deep breath. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I unlocked my phone and opened my contacts. The contact wasn't a therapist. It wasn't my mother. It was Declan Moore, the divorce attorney I'd consulted 6 months ago when I first smelled the vape smoke on Wesley's jacket. To understand why I didn't throw a plate at his head, you have to understand that this breakfast wasn't a surprise. It was just the confirmation of a diagnosis I'd made 8 months prior. I'm a nurse. My entire professional life is built on noticing the things people try to hide. I notice the needle tracks between toes. I notice the flinch when a partner raises a hand, and I noticed when Wesley changed. It started in November. Subtle stuff. He put a passcode on his phone. Not a big deal, except his passcode used to be 1234, and he'd ask me to answer texts for him while he was driving. Suddenly, the phone was Face ID only, and it never left his pocket. If he set it down, it was face down. Always. Then came the work crises. Wesley sells logistics software. It's boring. It's mid-tier. In the 4 years we'd been married, he'd never had a logistics emergency that required him to be out past 6 p.m. Suddenly, every Tuesday and Thursday there was a client dinner or a strategy session. One night in December, he came home at 11:30 p.m. Sorry, babe, he'd said, leaning in to kiss my cheek. Client was a nightmare. Drank 3 scotches just to get him to sign. He smelled like mints, strong, industrial-strength Altoids. But underneath the mint, caught in the fabric of his collar, was a smell I knew instantly. Cotton candy vape juice. Wesley smokes cigars occasionally. He hates vaping. He calls it sucking on a robot dick. But Lauren, his ex-wife, I'd met her twice at graduation events for McKenna. She vaped like a chimney, and her flavor of choice was always cotton candy. It's a cloying, sticky sweet smell that clings to everything. I didn't say anything that night. I just took his jacket to hang it up. As I smoothed the lapel, I saw a glitter speck. Gold. Tiny. Lauren wore gold glitter eyeshadow. I remember because she got it on the rim of her wine glass at McKenna's birthday. I started keeping a log. Jan to 12. Overnight trip to Savannah for a conference. Verified with his credit card statement. He bought gas in Charleston, never left the city limits. Feb 4. Late meeting. GPS on the shared family safety app, which he was too stupid to disable, showed him parked at a townhouse complex in Mount Pleasant. Lauren's complex. March 10th. I walked into the living room and he jerked his phone away so fast he almost dropped it. He was smiling that goofy, lopsided smile he used to give me when we were dating. The gaslighting was the worst part. If I asked, "You seem distant," he'd sigh and say, "God, Audrey, you're suffocating me. I'm working my ass off for us and you're acting like an inquisitor." He made me feel crazy. He made me feel like a nagging, insecure harpy. For a few weeks, I actually believed him. I thought maybe I was being paranoid. Maybe the stress of the ICU was bleeding into my home life. But then I found the receipt. It was in the center console of his car when I was looking for a phone charger. A receipt for the Burgundy Bar. 2 drinks, a Manhattan and a Cosmopolitan. Tuesday, 9:45 p.m. The same Tuesday, he told me he was stuck at the office finishing a spreadsheet. I didn't confront him. That's what amateurs do. Confrontation gives the liar a chance to invent a better lie. Oh, that receipt? That was for a client. The GPS? It's glitchy. No. I put the receipt back exactly where I found it. I went back inside, made dinner, and asked him how his spreadsheet went. Brutal. he told me, looking me right in the eye, stared at Excel until my eyes bled. You poor thing, I said, pouring him a glass of wine. You work so hard. That was the moment the love died. It wasn't a loud death. It was just a quiet realization that I was living with a stranger who thought I was an idiot. So when he finally dropped the hammer at breakfast, I wasn't heartbroken. I was just ready to close the file. I called in sick to the hospital, first time in 3 years. I told the charge nurse I had a family emergency, which wasn't technically a lie. I met Declan Moore at his office at 10:01 a.m. Declan is a shark, but he looks like a golden retriever. He's got messy blonde hair, wears rumpled linen suits, and operates out of a strip mall office next to a vape shop and a title loan place. The office smelled like old paper and lemon furniture polish. So, Declan said, leaning back in his creaky leather chair. He tapped a yellow legal pad with a cheap Bic pen. He actually used the words, radical honesty? He did. And he's moving in with the ex-wife. Today. He's packing his bag right now. He thinks he's coming back in 30 days. Declan chuckled. It was a dry, rasping sound. They always think they're coming back. They think they can take a test drive, and if the suspension is shot, they can just return the car. We're not going to let him do that, Audrey. I want him gone, Declan, but I want him to know exactly what he lost, and I want to protect my assets. The house is rented, but the savings, the retirement accounts, the car? We need a separation agreement, Declan said. Fast. If he walks out that door without signing something, he can come back whenever he wants. He can claim abandonment if you change the locks. He can drain the joint accounts. He said he wants to be transparent. He wants to do this the right way. Great. Declan grinned, showing teeth. We use that. We draft a temporary separation agreement. We frame it as a tool to facilitate his sabbatical. We make it sound like it's protecting him so you can't nag him while he's finding himself. He started typing on his laptop. The keys clacked loudly in the small room. Here's the play, Declan said, eyes on the screen. We include a financial independence clause. Since he wants to live separately, finances must be separate for the duration of the agreement to ensure true autonomy. That means joint accounts are frozen or divided immediately. No commingling of funds. He's broke, Declan. He lives paycheck to paycheck. He spends everything he makes on lease payments and clothes. Exactly, Declan said. So when he signs this, he's cutting off his supply line. We also add a property access clause. To ensure his peace of mind, he grants you exclusive use of the marital residence. He can't enter without written permission. We frame it as giving him space. And if he violates it? Then it triggers the breach penalties. And since he's admitting to leaving the marital home to cohabit with a former spouse, if we play this right, we get him to sign an admission of adultery without him realizing it. How? We add a line about current residence. He has to list where he's staying. Residence of Lauren Brennan. Boom. Documented. Declan hit print. The printer in the corner whirred to life. You think he'll sign it? I asked. Men like Wesley? Declan pulled the paper from the tray, the ink still warm. They don't read. They assume they're the smartest person in the room. If you tell him it's just a formality to keep you off his back, he'll sign it in blood. I left Declan's office around 11:30. My nerves were vibrating. I needed coffee. Real coffee, not the swill from the machine at home. I walked into a small cafe 2 doors down from the law office. I was waiting for my Americano when I heard a familiar, grating cough. Audrey? I turned. Standing in line behind me was Gary. Gary worked in sales with Wesley. He was a short, angry-looking man who always looked like he was sweating, even in December. He was holding a tray of muffins. Gary, I said, forcing a smile. Hi, what are you doing out here? Sales calls, he grunted. He looked at me, his eyes darting side to side. Is Wes with you? No, he's taking the day off. Gary let out a bitter laugh. Taking the day off? Must be nice. Guy hasn't closed a deal in 3 months and he's taking personal days. I hesitated. He's actually taking a month off. A sabbatical? Gary's eyebrows shot up. A month? With what commission? He's on a performance improvement plan, Audrey. If he doesn't hit quota by the end of the month, he's out. My stomach dropped. He didn't tell me that. Of course he didn't. Gary stepped closer, lowering his voice. He smelled like stale cigarettes and desperation. Look, I probably shouldn't say this, but screw him. He stole my lead on the Anderson account last week, bragged about it. I'm sorry, Gary. He was bragging about this sabbatical too, Gary whispered, leaning in. He told us in the break room yesterday. He said, "My wife is so desperate to keep me. She'll fund my vacation just to get me back." He said he's going to bank on your guilt to pay for his little love nest with the ex. I felt the blood drain from my face, then rush back in, hot and angry. He said that? Exact words. I've got her trained. That's what he said. Gary shook his head. I wouldn't tell you, but... My wife left me last year. I know the look. You're a nice lady, Audrey. Don't let him take you for a ride. Thank you, Gary, I said. My voice was surprisingly steady. I really appreciate that. Yeah, well, stick it to him, Gary muttered, grabbing his muffins. I walked out of that coffee shop with my Americano and a new layer of resolve. He wasn't just leaving me, he was laughing at me. He was banking on my weakness. He was about to find out just how trained I really was. I got back to the apartment at 12:30. The duffel bags were by the door, 3 of them, for a 1-month trip. Wesley was on the couch, watching sports highlights. McKenna was on the armchair, scrolling TikTok. The atmosphere in the room was suffocatingly smug. You're back, Wesley said, not looking up. I was about to head out. Good, I said. I pulled the folder Declan had given me out of my purse. I just need you to sign this before you go. Wesley sighed, a long, exaggerated exhalation of suffering. Audrey, come on. Papers? Really? Can't we just be adults about this? This is being adults, I said, placing the folder on the coffee table. It's a temporary separation agreement. It just outlines that we're living apart for 30 days. It protects you, actually. It says I can't harass you or show up at your new residence. Wesley's ears perked up at that. You can't show up? Right here, I pointed to Clause 4. Exclusive possession of residence. It means I stay here, you stay there. No surprise visits. Total privacy for your process. He picked up the pen. He looked at the document. I held my breath. If he read Clause 7, financial separation, or Clause 9, asset freeze, the whole thing would blow up. It's just standard stuff, I said, keeping my voice bored. Declan, my friend who's a lawyer, just downloaded a template for me. You went to a lawyer? McKenna chimed in, phone raised again. Wow, paranoid much? Just being safe, Kenna, Wesley said, holding up a hand to silence her. He wanted to get out the door. He wanted to get to Lawrence. He wanted to be the free man. He flipped to the back page. He didn't read a single word of the text. He didn't even glance at the financial disclosures. Scritch scratch. He signed his name with a flourish. Big loopy letters. Wesley Brennan. There, he said, tossing the pen onto the table. Happy? I'm officially on leave. Very happy, I said. I picked up the folder and checked the signature. It was valid. 1 copy for you. I handed him a loose copy I'd printed. 1 for me. Great. He stood up, grabbing his bags. I'll see you in 30 days, Audrey. Try to do some work on yourself while I'm gone. Maybe yoga? I'll look into it, I said. McKenna followed him out. She turned back at the door, blew a pink bubble with her gum, and popped it. Snap. Bye, Audrey, she smirked. Don't wait up. The door closed. The lock clicked. The silence in the apartment was instant and heavy. It wasn't empty, though. It felt clean. Like when the ventilation system kicks on in the OR and sucks all the stale air out. I locked the deadbolt. Then I walked down the hallway to the second bedroom. My son Felix was in there. He's 15. He's my biological son from a previous relationship, but Wesley has been his stepfather for 4 years. Felix is the kind of kid who blends into the drywall. He wears hoodies in the summer and always has headphones around his neck. I knocked softly. Felix? Yeah. I opened the door. He was sitting at his desk, staring at a paused game of Overwatch. His headphones were around his neck, bleeding tinny trap music into the air. He didn't turn around. They're gone, I said. I heard, he said. I walked over and sat on the edge of his bed. I'm sorry you had to hear that this morning. I didn't know he was going to do that. Felix spun his chair around. His face was blank, but his eyes were red-rimmed. It's fine, Mom. I knew. I blinked. You knew he was leaving. I knew about Lauren, Felix said. He looked down at his hands. He was picking at a hangnail on his thumb. I saw them. Saw them? Where? At the mall, like 2 months ago. I was at the food court with Tyler. I saw Wesley and that lady. They were walking out of Macy's. He was holding her hand. He kissed her neck while they were on the escalator. My heart broke. Not for me, but for him. Felix, why didn't you tell me? He shrugged, a small, painful motion. I didn't want to hurt you, and I thought maybe if I didn't say anything it would go away. Plus, McKenna knew. She told me to shut up about it or she'd tell everyone at school I was a narc. Rage. Pure, white-hot rage flared in my stomach. McKenna had blackmailed my son to cover for her father's affair. Come here, I said. Felix stood up and walked over. I hugged him. He's taller than me now, gangly and awkward, but he hugged me back hard. He smelled like deodorant and corn chips. You don't have to worry about McKenna anymore, I whispered into his shoulder. And you don't have to protect me. I've got this handled. He pulled back, looking at me. Is he coming back? No, I said. He thinks he is, but he's not. Felix nodded. A look of relief washed over his face that was so profound it made me want to cry. Good, he said. He's a dick. Language, I said automatically. He is, though. Yeah, I smiled, squeezing his hand. He is. Now put your headphones back on. Mom has work to do. I didn't sleep well that night, but not because I was sad. I was wired. I was running through the checklist in my head. Wednesday morning, 9 a.m. I walked into the branch of First National Bank on King Street. I was wearing my scrubs because I had a shift at noon, but also because people trust nurses. We look responsible. I sat down at the desk of a personal banker named Timothy. He looked about 12 years old. How can I help you, Ms. Hart? Timothy asked, typing on his keyboard. I need to make a withdrawal and close a joint account, I said, sliding the separation agreement across the desk. My husband and I are separating. This is the legal agreement mandating the separation of finances. Timothy scanned the document. He stopped at Clause 7. Okay, financial independence. It says here all joint assets are to be divided or frozen. I'd like to withdraw the funds from the joint checking and savings, I said. And I'd like to leave, let's see, $50 for account maintenance fees. Timothy typed. Okay, the total balance in checking is $4,200. Savings has $8,500. That savings was mostly my money. Overtime shifts, holiday bonuses. Wesley drained it periodically for investments that never paid out, but I'd been aggressively saving for the last 6 months since I started suspecting the affair. Withdraw it all, I said. Cashier's check made out to Audrey Hart. Leave $50 in the checking. And the husband? Timothy asked, looking nervous. Does he need to authorize this? Read the signature line, I pointed. He already authorized the separation of assets. I'm just executing the contract he signed yesterday. Timothy nodded. Okay, I can do that. I watched him tap the keys. Click, click, enter. It took 10 minutes. When he handed me the check for $12,650, I felt a physical weight lift off my shoulders. It wasn't a fortune, but it was my fortune. It was the money for Felix's college. It was the rent. Anything else? Timothy asked. Yes, I said. Remove me as an authorized user on the joint credit card. The one with the $15,000 limit. Done. And transfer the remaining $50 into a new account in his name only, if possible. I don't want my name attached to his overdrafts. Smart, Timothy said. I walked out of the bank with the check folded in my pocket. Phase 1 complete. Wesley had $50 and a credit card that was about to be maxed out. The car was next. Wesley drove a 2021 BMW 3 Series. He loved that car more than he loved me. He definitely loved it more than Felix. But here's the kicker. His credit score was in the low 500s when he bought it. I had to co-sign. Actually, I didn't just co-sign. The loan was in my name. The title was in my name. He just made the payments. Except, checking the bank statements last night, I realized he hadn't made a payment in 2 months. I sat in my car in the bank parking lot and opened the My BMW app on my phone. Vehicle status, parked. Location, 1422 Oakwood Drive, Lawrence Townhouse. I called the financing company. Hi, my name is Audrey Hart. I'm the primary lien holder on a vehicle that is currently in possession of an unauthorized driver who has stopped making payments. I have a separation agreement granting me exclusive property rights. The woman on the phone was efficient. We can issue a repossession order if the payments are 60 days past due. They are, I said. I also have the location. If you can give us the address, we can have a truck there this afternoon. 1422 Oakwood Drive, Mount Pleasant. It's in the driveway. Got it. And ma'am, do you have the remote access features enabled? I do. If you want to make it easier for the driver, you can disable the ignition remotely so it can't be moved until he gets there. I looked at the app. There was a button labeled Remote Immobilization. I smiled. It was a cold smile. Done, I said, tapping the screen. The app spun for a second, then confirmed. Ignition disabled. Thank you, Ms. Hart. We'll pick it up within 4 hours. I hung up. I imagined Wesley trying to start the car to go to lunch, pushing the button, hearing nothing but the silence of a bricked engine. I worked my shift. It was a chaotic day. 2 cardiac arrests and a multi-car pileup on I-26. I didn't check my phone until 7:00 p.m. When I finally sat down in the break room and pulled my phone out of my locker, the screen was lit up like a Christmas tree. 14 missed calls, 8 text messages, all from hubby. I hadn't changed the contact name yet. I didn't call back. I scrolled to the voicemails. I put my feet up on the plastic chair opposite me, opened a Diet Coke, and pressed play. Voicemail 1, 2:30 p.m. Audrey, hey, weird thing. I'm at the liquor store just picking up some wine for the house, and the joint card got declined, like hard declined. Says card canceled. Call me back. I think the bank triggered a fraud alert. His voice was annoyed, impatient. Voicemail 2, 3:15 p.m. Audrey, pick up the phone. I checked the banking app. The accounts are at 0. 0. What the hell is going on? Did we get hacked? I'm freaking out here. Call me. Panic was setting in. The background noise sounded like wind. He was outside. Voicemail 3, 4:45 p.m. My car won't start. The BMW is dead. And now a tow truck just pulled up? Audrey, talk to me. The guy says he has an order from you. You can't do this. This is theft. I'm calling the police. Voicemail 4, 5:30 p.m. Heavy breathing. Okay, look. The guy took the car. He took the damn car, Audrey. Lauren had to drive me to pick up food. You need to fix this. Now, stop playing games. I signed your stupid paper. Now turn the money back on. I took a sip of my Diet Coke. The carbonation burned pleasantly in my throat. He still thought it was a mistake. He still thought he could order me to turn the money back on like a light switch. I sent one text back. Me, I'm at work. I'm at. We can discuss this via email. Per the agreement you signed yesterday, finances are separated. The car is in my name. The money was withdrawn legally. Read the contract. Then I blocked his number. I drove home feeling invincible. I was the Countess of Revenge. I was the Batman of divorce, but the universe has a way of checking your ego when you get too cocky. At 9 p.m., my phone buzzed with an Instagram DM. It was from a blank profile. No photo, username, user883920. Message, he didn't put all the money in the joint account. He has a stash, cash, hidden in his storage unit on River Zavy. Unit 404. He's going there tonight to get it. I stared at the screen. A stash? It made sense. Wesley dealt with cash commissions sometimes. If he had a stockpile, he could survive the month. He could fight back with a lawyer. Panic flared. If he had cash, my financial chokehold failed. I shouldn't have gone. I should have called Declan. But I was running on adrenaline and caffeine. I drove to the storage facility on Rivers Avenue. It's a sketchy area, lots of barbed wire and flickering lights. I had the gate code because we rented a unit there years ago for Christmas decorations, though we'd stopped paying for it, or so I thought. I punched in the code. Access denied. I tried again. Access denied. I waited by the gate for 20 minutes until another car drove in, and I tailgated them through. My heart was hammering. I parked near Unit 404. It was dark. I had a flashlight from my glove box. I walked up to the orange roll-up door. There was a padlock on it, a shiny new one. I didn't have bolt cutters. I put my ear to the door. Silence. I spent an hour wandering that facility, trying to peek through the crack in the door, trying to see if there was anything inside. I smelled like exhaust fumes and mothballs. I ripped my favorite jeans on a piece of exposed metal fencing. Finally, I called the facility's emergency number listed on the gate, claiming I lost my key. Unit 404? The guy on the phone grumbled. Lady, that unit's been empty for 3 months. We cleared it out for non-payment in March. Empty? Bone dry. You want to rent it? It's available. I hung up. It was a trap, or just a lie. Or maybe McKenna messing with me from a burner account. I sat in my car, exhausted, grease on my hands, realizing I'd just spent 3 hours chasing a ghost because I was terrified of losing control. I wasn't invincible. I was just a tired nurse in a Honda Civic. I drove home in silence. I needed to be smarter. I couldn't chase every shadow. Because while I was out there playing detective in the dark, McKenna had been busy editing. I didn't know it yet, but the social media war was about to start. The hangover from my failed detective mission at the storage unit was brutal. I woke up Thursday morning feeling like I'd been chewing on aluminum foil. My eyes were gritty and my patience was thin. I walked into the ER at 7:45 a.m. grabbing a coffee from the nurse's station. I expected the usual chaos, beeping monitors, shouting residents, the smell of antiseptic and fear. What I didn't expect was the silence that fell over the station the second I walked in. Sarah, a triage nurse I've known for 5 years, we've shared secrets, lunches, and once, a bottle of tequila in the parking lot after a pediatric code, looked down at her chart immediately. Morning, I said, putting my bag away. Hey, Audrey, she mumbled. She didn't look up. Okay, I said, leaning against the counter. Who died? Or who's sleeping with the chief of surgery? Give me the gossip. Sarah hesitated, then sighed. She pulled her phone out of her scrub pocket. You haven't seen it? Seen what? I've been dealing with legal stuff. McKenna's TikTok. It's circulating. She turned the phone around. The video started with a black and white filter, sad piano music playing in the background, the kind of stock music they use for puppy shelter commercials. McKenna was sitting on the floor of what was clearly Lauren's living room, hugging her knees. Her mascara was artfully smudged. Hey guys, McKenna whispered into the camera. She sniffled. I didn't want to make this, but I feel like I have to speak my truth. My dad, he's the strongest man I know. He's been in an abusive marriage for 4 years. I felt my jaw unhinge. Abusive? She controls everything, McKenna continued, wiping a tear that I was 90% sure was Visine. She makes him account for every penny. She tracks his location. And yesterday, when he tried to leave just to get some mental health space, she stole his car. She drained his accounts. She left him stranded with nothing. He's literally walking to job interviews because she took his keys. It's financial violence, you guys. The video cut to a montage, a photo of Wesley looking sad at a bus stop, staged. A screenshot of his empty bank account balance, real. A video of the empty driveway where the BMW used to be. Please, McKenna's voiceover said, send prayers. We're trying to survive this narcissist. I looked at the view count, 45,000 views. I looked at the comments. User 772. OMG, that is so toxic. Report her to the Board of Nursing. Becca. Boo. Financial abuse is abuse. Stay strong, girl. Chucktown. Native. I know who this is. She works at General. I'm never going there. I handed the phone back to Sarah. My hands were shaking, not from fear, but from the sheer audacity of the lie. People don't believe this, do they? I asked. Sarah grimaced. Audrey, it has a lot of shares. People love a villain. And the financial violence buzzword? That's trending right now. He signed a contract, I said, my voice rising. He cheated on me for 8 months. He left me. I know, Sarah said softly, but the internet doesn't care about the truth. It cares about the tears. I spent the rest of my shift feeling like a pariah. Every time a patient looked at me, I wondered if they'd seen the video. Every time a resident whispered, I assumed it was about the abusive nurse. McKenna hadn't just attacked my marriage. She was coming for my livelihood. I got home at 8:00 p.m., determined to nuke McKenna's narrative from orbit. I had the evidence. I had the text messages Declan had subpoenaed. I had the photos of Wesley and Lauren. I had the GPS logs. I was going to compile a folder for Declan to send a cease and desist letter that would make McKenna's head spin. I sat down at my laptop and plugged in my external hard drive, the one where I kept my backups. Click. Whir, click, click. The sound was wrong. It wasn't the healthy hum of a spinning drive. It was the rhythmic, mechanical death rattle of a read-write head stuck on a platter. No, I whispered. No, no, no. I unplugged it and plugged it back in. Click, click, click. System message. USB device not recognized. The last USB device you connected to this computer malfunctioned. Okay, I said, my heart rate spiking to 120. Okay, don't panic, cloud backup. I logged into my cloud account. I went to the folder marked Divorce Evidence. It was there. I breathed a sigh of relief. I clicked to open the subfolder Photos, the Affair. The folder was empty. I stared at the screen. 0 items. I checked the screenshots folder. 0 items. Then I remembered Tuesday night, the storage unit. I had been out there for 3 hours in a dead zone, frantically trying to upload the new files I'd transferred from my phone to clear up space. The upload must have stalled. And because I had optimized storage turned on to save space on my phone, the originals had been deleted from my device once the upload started. It was a digital limbo. The files weren't on my phone. They weren't in the cloud, and the hard drive backup was dead. I scrambled for my phone. I checked the recently deleted folder. Empty. I had cleared it yesterday in a fit of cleaning mania. I sat back in my chair, the room spinning. I had the separation agreement. That was legal. But the moral evidence, the photos of them kissing, the texts where he called me a boring cash cow, the proof that justified my financial violence, gone. If we went to court now, it was his word against mine. He could claim the separation agreement was signed under duress. He could claim he never cheated. Without the proof of the affair, I looked exactly like what McKenna said I was. A cold, calculating woman who stripped her husband of his assets for no reason. I put my head in my hands. I had been so busy playing 4D chess with his bank accounts that I had knocked over my own king. Friday night, 11:30 p.m. I was sitting in the dark, drinking wine, trying to figure out how to recover the data. Felix was asleep. The apartment building was quiet. Then, the pounding started. Thud, thud, thud. It wasn't a knock. It was a fist hammering against the wood of my front door. It shook the frame. "Audrey, open the damn door!" It was Wesley, and he sounded drunk. I froze. My first instinct was to hide. My second instinct was to arm myself. I grabbed the heavy Maglite flashlight I kept by the entryway console. Thud, thud. "I know you're in there. My key doesn't work. What did you do to the locks?" I crept to the door and looked through the peephole. The fisheye lens distorted him, but the rage was clear. Wesley was wearing the same shirt he'd left in on Tuesday, but now it was stained with sweat. His hair was messy. His eyes were bloodshot. He looked like a man who had been sleeping in a car or on a couch that smelled like cat pee. "You can't lock me out of my own house," he screamed, kicking the bottom of the door. "I pay the rent. Well, I used to. Open up." I heard a door open down the hall. Mrs. Gable in 4B. She's 80 years old and hears everything. "Mr. Brennan?" her shaky voice called out. "Is everything all right?" Wesley spun around, almost losing his balance. "Go back inside, you old bat. This is a marital dispute." "Don't you talk to her like that," I said through the door. I didn't open it. I wasn't crazy. "Oh, now she speaks." Wesley slammed his hand against the wood again. "Let me in, Audrey. I need my suits. I need my other watch. And I need you to transfer the money back. Lauren kicked me out, okay? Are you happy? She said I'm too much drama without the car, so let me in." "Go away, Wesley," I said, my voice trembling slightly. "You signed the agreement. Exclusive possession. If you don't leave, I'm calling the police." "Call them," he roared. "I'll tell them you stole my life." Down the hall, another door opened. Mr. Henderson. He's a retired Marine. "Hey!" Mr. Henderson's voice was a bark. "Buddy, you need to step away from that door." "Mind your business," Wesley yelled. "I'm making it my business," Mr. Henderson said. I heard the heavy thud of footsteps. "You're scaring the lady, and you're waking me up. You have 5 seconds to get to the elevator." I watched through the peephole. Wesley puffed up his chest, looked at Mr. Henderson, who is 6'4" and looks like he eats barbed wire for breakfast, and deflated. "Fine," Wesley spat. He turned back to my door. "This isn't over, Audrey. You think you're smart? You're just a bitter, lonely bitch." He stumbled toward the elevator. I waited until I heard the ding and the doors slide shut. I leaned my forehead against the cool wood of the door. My heart was hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. He was unraveling, but a desperate man is a dangerous man. Saturday morning, I woke up with a plan. I needed evidence. I had lost the digital trail, but Wesley had just given me a gift. He had created a physical scene. I went down to the superintendent's office in the basement. Mr. Russo is a guy who smells permanently of garlic and floor wax. He's been the super for 20 years and hates everyone, but he has a soft spot for Felix because Felix helped him set up his iPad. "Mr. Russo," I said, walking into his cramped, windowless office, "I need a favor." He looked up from his crossword puzzle. "If it's about the noise last night, I already got complaints. Mrs. Gable is writing a letter to the board." "I know," I said. "It was my husband. We're separating. He was aggressive." Mr. Russo grunt. "He called Mrs. Gable a bat, I heard." "Mr. Russo, did the hallway cameras catch it?" He pointed to the monitor bank on the wall. "Cameras catch everything. Grainy, but they catch it." "I need that footage," I said. "He's claiming I'm the abuser. He's claiming I locked him out illegally. I need proof that he was threatening me and the neighbors." Mr. Russo chewed on his cigar, unlit. "Strictly speaking, I need a police warrant to release footage." "Please," I said. "He screamed at Mrs. Gable. He threatened Mr. Henderson. If he comes back, I need this for a restraining order, for Felix's safety." That was the magic word. Felix. Mr. Russo sighed, swiveled his chair to the computer, and started typing with 2 fingers. "Tuesday, you said?" "No, Friday. 11:30? "Yes." He pulled up the file. There it was, in gritty black and white. Wesley pounding on the door, Wesley spinning around to scream at Mrs. Gable, Wesley lunging at the door like he was trying to break it down. "Look at that," Mr. Russo muttered. Guy looks unhinged. Can I have it? On a flash drive? He paused, then pulled a thumb drive out of his drawer. I'm going to leave this on the desk. If you pick it up, I didn't see it. Thank you, Mr. Russo. I grabbed the drive. I didn't have the affair photos anymore, but I had something better. I had a video of Wesley Brennan, the victim, terrorizing an 80-year-old woman and trying to kick down the door of the home he supposedly abandoned. It was the pivot I needed. Wednesday, 1 week since the breakfast breakup. I wasn't waiting for the 30 days. The separation agreement had a clause. Premarital assets remain the sole property of the original owner and may be removed at any time. I had bought the dining room set. I had bought the leather recliner. I had bought the expensive mahogany bedroom suite. And most importantly, I had inherited my grandmother's china cabinet, the one Wesley hated because it was old-fashioned, but which held my entire childhood in its glass shelves. I hired 2 men in a truck. They arrived at 9 a.m. Everything with a blue sticky note goes, I told the lead mover, a guy named Big Dave. They were efficient. They wrapped the china cabinet in blankets. They disassembled the bed. We were halfway through loading the truck when a Mini Cooper screeched into the parking lot. It was lime green. It was Lauren's car. Wesley climbed out of the passenger side. He looked even worse than Friday. He was wearing shorts and a polo shirt that was 2 sizes too small, probably borrowed from Lauren's teenage son. No, that was mean, but he looked ridiculous. "Hey," he screamed, running across the pavement. "Hey, stop, that's my stuff." Big Dave paused, holding a lamp. He looked at me. "Keep loading," I said calmly. Wesley reached the ramp of the truck. I said, "Stop. You're looting my house. I'm calling the cops." "Go ahead," I said from the balcony. "I'm right here, Wesley." He looked up, his face purple. You vulture. That's my recliner. I watched the Super Bowl in that chair." "I bought it in 2018, I said. "Receipt is in the folder, Clause 5, premarital assets." "I don't care about your stupid clause." He tried to push past Big Dave to get into the truck. Big Dave didn't move. Big Dave is the size of a vending machine. "Sir, don't touch the truck." "Police!" Wesley yelled at the sky. "Someone call the police!" "I already did," I said. A cruiser pulled in 2 minutes later. 2 officers stepped out. They looked bored. Domestic disputes over furniture are the bane of law enforcement. "What's the problem here?" the older officer asked. "She's robbing me." Wesley pointed a trembling finger at me. "She kicked me out, stole my money, and now she's taking the furniture while I'm homeless." The officer looked up at me. "Ma'am?" I walked down the stairs holding my binder, my evidence binder. "Officer," I said, handing him the separation agreement. "My husband voluntarily left the marital home 7 days ago to cohabit with his mistress. He signed this agreement granting me exclusive possession of the property and authorizing the removal of my premarital assets. Here are the receipts for every item on that truck, purchased prior to the marriage date of June 2019. The officer flipped through the binder. He saw the receipts. He saw the signed contract. He saw the notarized stamp. He looked at Wesley. "Sir, is this your signature?" I didn't read it," Wesley stammered. "She tricked me. She said it was just a formality." "But you signed it," the officer said, "and these receipts match the items. It's a civil matter, sir, but based on this contract, she's within her rights." "So you're just going to let her take my bed?" Wesley whined. "It's her bed, sir," the officer said, handing me back the binder. "If you disrupt the movers again, we'll have to cite you for disorderly conduct. And considering we have a report from Friday night regarding a disturbance here..." Wesley went pale. He knew about the Friday incident. He stepped back. He watched as Big Dave loaded the china cabinet. He watched as his throne, the recliner, disappeared into the dark of the truck. "You're evil," he whispered to me as the truck ramp clanged shut. "You're actually evil." "No, Wesley," I said, checking off the last item on my list. "I'm just organized." That night, the apartment was empty, echoey. The dining room was bare. The living room had a TV on the floor and a beanbag chair I dug out of the closet. It should have felt depressing. Instead, it felt like a blank canvas. "It echoes in here," Felix said. He was standing in the middle of the living room holding a pepperoni pizza box. "It does," I agreed. "We need to paint." "Paint what?" "Your room. You always hated that beige, right? You wanted navy blue?" Felix's eyes lit up. "Can we? Wesley said dark paint lowers the resale value." "Wesley doesn't live here," I said, opening the pizza. "And I don't care about resale value. I care about you liking your room." We spent the rest of the night painting. We put plastic down on the hardwood. I let Felix pick the music, some aggressive rap that I pretended to enjoy. We ate pizza sitting on the floor, getting tomato sauce on our chins. At one point, Felix accidentally rolled blue paint onto the ceiling. He froze, looking at me, expecting me to yell. That's what Wesley would have done. Wesley would have lectured him for 20 minutes about carelessness. I looked at the blue splotch. "Looks like a cloud," I said, "a storm cloud." Felix relaxed. He laughed. "A Smurf cloud." "Exactly." We laughed until our sides hurt. It was the first time in a year I had heard my son really laugh. It wasn't a careful, guarded chuckle. It was a belly laugh. The apartment was empty of furniture, but for the first time in a long time, it was full of us. 2 weeks later, the court date. Declan had filed for an emergency hearing to enforce the separation agreement and convert it into a permanent divorce decree based on irreconcilable differences and adultery. I wore my court armor, a charcoal gray suit, pearls, hair in a tight bun. I looked like a librarian who takes no prisoners. We were in Judge Holloway's courtroom. Judge Holloway was a legend in family court. She had zero patience for theatrics and even less for men who tried to talk over her. Wesley walked in with a lawyer I didn't recognize, probably someone cheap or someone who took the case on a promise of future payment. Wesley was wearing a suit that was clearly from his fat days 3 years ago. It hung off his shoulders. He looked tired, defeated. But there was still that glint of entitlement in his eyes. "All rise." Judge Holloway sat down. She adjusted her glasses and picked up the file. "We are here for the matter of Brennan versus Brennan," she said. "I have a separation agreement here signed 3 weeks ago. Mr. Brennan, you are contesting the validity of this document?" Wesley stood up. "Yes, Your Honor. I was coerced. I didn't know what I was signing. She told me it was just a paper to help us work on our marriage. Instead, she used it to rob me." "Rob you?" Judge Holloway raised an eyebrow. "She took all the money. She took the car. She took the furniture." "Did you sign the document granting her exclusive control of these assets?" I signed it, but I didn't read the fine print." Judge Holloway sighed. She took off her glasses. "Mr. Brennan, you're a salesman, correct? You deal in contracts." "Yes, but..." "So you are telling this court that you, a professional who deals with binding agreements, signed a legal document regarding the dissolution of your marriage without reading it, and you expect the court to void it because of your own negligence? It's not fair," Wesley blurted out. "She planned this. It was a trap." Declan stood up, smooth, calm. "Your Honor, if I may, the respondent claims he was working on the marriage. However, we have submitted into evidence a video from the building security system showing the respondent attempting to break down the petitioner's door while intoxicated. We also have the respondent's own admission in the agreement that he was leaving the domicile to reside with his mistress, Ms. Lauren Miller." "Objection," Wesley's lawyer squeaked. "Alleged mistress." "It's in the contract," Declan said. Clause 2. Residing at 1422 Oakwood Drive. That is Ms. Miller's home. Judge Holloway looked at Wesley. "You moved in with another woman the same day you signed this?" Wesley stammered. "It was a sabbatical." "A sabbatical," the judge repeated. She looked at me. I kept my face stone cold. "Mr. Brennan," Judge Holloway said, putting her glasses back on. The contract is valid. You signed it. You initiated the separation. You vacated the home. Ms. Hart acted within the four corners of the agreement you executed. The assets remain with her as per the financial independence clause you agreed to. She banged the gavel. It sounded like a gunshot. Divorce granted. The terms of the separation agreement are now the terms of the divorce. Case closed. It took 10 minutes. He lost everything in 10 minutes because he couldn't be bothered to read 2 pages of text. I walked out of the courthouse into the blinding Charleston sun. The humidity hit me like a physical wall. Declan shook my hand. "Cleanest kill I've ever seen, Audrey." "You should go to law school." "I prefer nursing," I said. "Blood is easier to wash off than this." I walked to my car, my reliable Honda Civic. "Audrey!" I stopped. Wesley was jogging across the asphalt. He was sweating profusely in that oversized suit. He looked small. That was the only word for it. He used to take up so much space in my life. Now he just looked like a middle-aged man with bad credit and a worse haircut. He stopped 5 feet away. He was panting. "You happy?" he rasped. "You ruined me. Lauren kicked me out for good this morning. She said I'm useless without the money. I'm sleeping in a motel, Audrey. A Motel 6. "That sounds hard, Wesley," I said. "How can you be so cold?" He searched my face for a crack, for the woman who used to make his doctor appointments and iron his shirts. "I loved you." "No, you didn't," I said. "You loved having a manager. You loved having a safety net. And the second you thought you could upgrade, you cut the net. You just forgot that I was the one holding it." "I can fix this," he said, stepping closer. "We can fix this. I'll come home. I'll sign whatever. Just don't leave me like this." I opened my car door. The heat radiating from the interior was stifling. There is no we, Wesley. There hasn't been for a long time. There's just me and Felix, and we're doing just fine. "You're gonna regret this," he shouted as I got in. "You're gonna be lonely." I started the engine. I rolled down the window just an inch. "I'd rather be lonely than be with you," I said. I drove away. I watched him in the rearview mirror, standing alone in the middle of the parking lot, getting smaller and smaller until he was just a speck of dust on the horizon. Life settled. The quiet became normal. Felix and I got a dog, a rescue mutt named Buster who snored. I picked up extra shifts, not because I had to, but because I was saving for a trip to Italy. Then, 3 months later, my phone rang on a Tuesday evening. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but instinct prickled at the back of my neck. "Hello? Audrey?" The voice was unrecognizable at first. It was broken, wet, shaking. "McKenna?" "Yeah," she sniffled. "It's me." I walked out onto the balcony. The sun was setting, painting the sky in bruises of purple and orange. "What do you want, McKenna? Another TikTok video?" "No," she sobbed. "No, I deleted everything. Audrey, please. I'm in trouble." "What kind of trouble?" "I'm pregnant," she whispered. And the guy bailed. And Lauren, she found out and she kicked me out. She said she's not raising another baby. She kicked Dad out months ago, and now she kicked me out. "Where is your father?" "I don't know," McKenna cried. "He's in a shelter, I think, or sleeping in his friend's garage. He won't answer his phone. Audrey, I have nowhere to go. I'm at a Waffle House on Main. Can you come get me?" "You..." "Please? I'll do anything. I'll tell everyone the truth." I gripped the railing of the balcony. I closed my eyes. I remembered McKenna laughing while Wesley packed his bags. I remembered the camera in my face. I remembered the financial violence video that almost got me reported to HR. But I also remembered she was 19. She was a kid who had been raised by 2 narcissists. "McKenna," I said softly. "Please, Audrey. I'm scared." "I can give you the number for a women's shelter," I said. "They have resources for young mothers. They can help you with medical care." Silence on the line, then a gasp. You won't come get me?" "No, I said. I won't. But why? You help Dad. You always help. I helped your father by enabling him, I said. I'm not doing that anymore. You are an adult, McKenna. You made choices to destroy my reputation. You helped him lie to me. You don't get to burn the house down and then ask to sleep in the ashes. I hate you, she screamed. The mask slipped. The scared child was gone. The brat was back. You're a bitch. Dad was right about you. Maybe, I said, but I'm a bitch with a home and a future. Good luck, McKenna. I hung up. My hand was shaking. It hurts to say no. It goes against every nurse instinct I have. We fix people. We save people. But sometimes, to save yourself, you have to let the patient flatline. 3 months later, I'm writing this from my new living room. The navy blue walls in Felix's room look amazing, by the way. People ask me if I feel guilty. Do I feel guilty that Wesley is bouncing between couches and part-time jobs? Do I feel guilty that McKenna is figuring out single motherhood the hard way? I thought I would. I really did. But this morning, I woke up at 6:00 a.m. I made coffee. I sat in my chair, a new velvet armchair I bought with my own money, and I listened to the house. There was no tension. There was no walking on eggshells. There was no smell of cotton candy vape juice or cheap lies. Felix walked out, scratching his head, looking sleepy. "Morning, Mom," he said. "Buster peed on the rug." "I'll get the cleaner," I said. "Nah, I got it," he said. He grabbed the spray bottle. He didn't argue. He didn't manipulate. He just cleaned up the mess. I took a sip of my coffee. It was hot, strong, and bitter. Justice isn't always a courtroom bang. Sometimes it's just the quiet realization that the parasites are gone and the host is finally healing. Wesley wanted a sabbatical. He got a permanent one. I got my life back. And honestly, best trade I ever made. If this story resonated with you, leave a like and consider subscribing. You can also drop any comment below, even just one word. Maybe tell me where you're watching from or what time it is right now. Sometimes one word is enough to say you were here.